My wife tried to frame me, ended up behind bars, and now she's pregnant by an inmate. I need advice. Reddit. My wife wanted to set me up, but when I got back at her, she ended up behind bars for attacking me. A few months later, I found out that she was pregnant by inmates. I need some serious advice. Reddit. My life is spiraling out of control, and I feel like I'm stuck in a nightmare. I, 22M, have been dating Ava, 21F, for about a year. We met in college, and everything was going fine. Until it all started falling apart. Recently, Ava started acting weird. She became distant and started picking fights over little things. At first, I thought it was just school stress. Finals and internships are stressful for everyone, so I brushed it off. Little did I know, that was just the beginning. Last Friday, Ava texted me, saying she needed to talk. I got that feeling in my stomach. The one that tells you something bad is coming. When I arrived at her place, I walked into the most unexpected situation. Ava's parents, David and Sandra, were sitting in the living room. They were staring at me like I had done something horrible. I didn't even have a chance to say hello before David started accusing me of cheating on Ava. Apparently, Ava told them I had taken another girl behind one of the university buildings and had sex with her. The moment David said it, I couldn't even speak. I was blindsided. Then Ava pulled out her phone and showed a video. The video was grainy, filmed in the dark. It showed two people behind a building on campus. The guy in the video was wearing a jacket and hat that looked exactly like mine. The lighting was awful, but Ava and her parents were convinced it was me. Her dad was furious, saying I'd betrayed their family and destroyed their trust. He didn't even care about hearing my side of the story. All he wanted was revenge. David told me I had 10 days to prove that the guy in the video wasn't me. If I couldn't, they were going to the police and the university. Ava just sat there silently while her dad unleashed on me. She barely looked at me. It felt like my whole world was crashing down. This was someone I loved. Someone I thought knew me better than anyone, but she acted like I was a stranger. I couldn't wrap my head around the accusation. Why would anyone make this up? Why would someone fake a video just to make me look guilty? I don't have any enemies, and neither does Ava. We don't get involved in drama or have anyone who would target us like this, but the more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. This wasn't random. It felt too calculated, too perfectly timed with the problems we'd been having. Could Ava herself be behind it? Her dad, David, has never liked me. He's ex-military and extremely strict. Throughout our relationship, he's always dropped little comments that made me feel like I wasn't good enough for Ava. He thinks she deserves someone more successful, someone with a real future. Every dinner we had together was tense because he'd find some way to criticize me, even if it was subtle. Her mom, Sandra, is even worse. She's overbearing and constantly tries to control Ava's life. She's one of those moms who thinks no one is good enough for her daughter, and she's always been vocal about it. A few months ago, Ava mentioned that after graduation, she might want to move in with me, and Sandra completely lost it. She accused me of trying to take Ava away from her and manipulate her. Now, with this video, she seems ready to destroy me for good. They didn't even listen when I tried to explain. David just repeated the same thing. 10 days to prove I didn't do it. If I didn't, they'd take legal action and make sure I got expelled. The worst part is, they've already started telling people about it. By the time I left their house, I knew my name was being dragged through the mud. Ava wasn't saying much, but I could tell she was on her parents' side. After leaving Ava's place, I called my parents. I figured they'd support me, help me figure this out. But when I explained the situation, my mom was devastated. She kept asking me how I could do something like that, like she had already decided I was guilty. My dad stayed quiet, but I could hear the disappointment in his voice. I felt like I was being abandoned by everyone. My own parents didn't believe me, and that made everything so much worse. The video is fake. I know it's not me, but no one seems to care. I wasn't even near the building the night the video was supposedly filmed. I have proof that I was in my dorm working on a paper. I submitted it online and there's a timestamp that lines up perfectly. But none of that matters to Ava's parents. They've already decided I'm guilty, and they're not interested in any evidence that says otherwise. I'm out of options. My friend suggested I get a lawyer, but I don't have the money for that. Even if I could afford one, what can they do in 10 days? I reached out to the IT department at school, hoping they could help track the video's origin or figure out if it had been doctored. They said they'd look into it, but it's not a quick process. I don't have time on my side. To make things worse, people on campus are starting to hear about the accusations. Ava's family is pretty connected, and they're telling everyone they know about it. I can feel people staring at me differently. Friends are starting to avoid me. It's like I'm being convicted in the court of public opinion, and I haven't even had a chance to defend myself. I'm becoming that guy who's being whispered about for something I didn't even do. I keep running through my head who would go to this length to set me up. Maybe it's one of Ava's parents' friends who's never liked me. But the more I think about it, the more it feels like this is something orchestrated by someone much closer. It's terrifying to think about, but what if Ava herself is involved? She's been acting so strange lately, and this accusation came out of nowhere. It's almost too perfect. I'm running out of ideas. I've contacted a few friends who are good with tech, hoping they can help me analyze the video and maybe figure out who made it. But it feels like a long shot. I'm running out of time, and I don't know how to clear my name. Everything I've worked for is slipping away. I thought I had a future with Ava, but now I'm not even sure if I'll have a future at all. Her family has power. They're rich and connected, and if they want to, they can make sure I get kicked out of school and lose everything. I've seen people's lives get destroyed over less. I'm sitting here, watching my life fall apart, and I don't know how to stop it. Alright, Reddit, I'm back. Things have gotten crazier, but I think I'm finally getting closer to figuring this out. I'm still dealing with the fallout from my girlfriend Ava's accusation that I cheated on her, but I might have just found a way to turn everything around. It's been a hell of a ride, and I need to vent this before I lose my mind. If you haven't read my first post, here's a quick rundown. I, 22M, have been dating Ava, 21F, for about a year. Recently, she and her parents, David and Sandra, accused me of cheating on her with some girl behind a university building. They even had a grainy video that they claimed showed me with the girl, but it's fake. They gave me 10 days to prove I didn't do it, or they'd go to the police and ruin my life. I've been wrecking my brain trying to figure out who's behind this, how the video was made, and why this is happening to me. I have no enemies, at least none that I know of, so it's hard to believe this is just some random attack. It feels more personal than that. Things got worse. Word spread around campus about the accusation, and it felt like everyone was turning against me. People I thought were my friends started acting distant, like they didn't want to be associated with me. I could hear people whispering about me in the halls, and some even stopped talking to me altogether. It was like I was becoming invisible, but for all the wrong reasons. Ava still hadn't responded to any of my texts or calls. It was like she vanished from my life. We used to be inseparable, and now she was acting like I didn't exist. Her parents were still telling everyone they knew that I was a lying, cheating scumbag. I tried to reach out to her one last time, just to talk, to try and clear things up, but she blocked me. I was on the verge of giving up. Every time I tried to defend myself, it felt like I was just sinking deeper. I even started doubting myself, thinking maybe I did something wrong and didn't remember. Maybe there was some misunderstanding, but no matter how much I tried to figure it out, nothing made sense. I felt like I was at the lowest point in my life. My family didn't believe me, the people at school were turning their backs on me, and the girl I thought I'd love was letting it all happen. I was desperate for a way out. Then, something unexpected happened. One of my close friends, Lucas, reached out. He's been one of the few people who believed me from the start. He told me that he had heard a rumor that the video might have been faked. Apparently, someone on campus mentioned seeing Ava hanging out with a guy from the computer science department, a guy who's known for being good with tech. This set off alarm bells for me. Lucas said the guy's name was Josh, and he had a bit of a reputation for hacking and editing videos. Nothing major, but he'd done a few small-time jobs for people, like altering grades or editing footage for student pranks. If anyone on campus could manipulate a video, it would be Josh. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the idea that Josh could be involved made sense. If Ava was hanging out with him, maybe she asked him to doctor the video to make it look like I was cheating. It explained how the footage was so conveniently timed, how it showed someone who looked like me, and why the quality was just bad enough to be unclear. I needed to confront Josh, but I couldn't just walk up to him and accuse him without proof. I had to be smart about this. If Josh was in on this with Ava, they would deny everything unless I had solid evidence. I came up with a plan. I decided to approach Josh in a way that wouldn't raise his suspicions. I knew he liked to party, so I waited until there was a big campus party where I knew he'd be. Lucas helped me get in, and we made sure Josh saw me hanging out with a group of people, looking relaxed and non-threatening. I needed him to believe I was just another guy at the party, not someone looking for answers. Sure enough, after a few drinks, Josh started to loosen up. I didn't mention anything about Ava or the video. Instead, I made small talk, pretending like I wasn't dying inside. After an hour or so, we ended up talking about tech, and I casually brought up how impressed I was with his skills. I flattered him, saying I'd heard about some of the work he'd done with video editing and how I thought it was cool. It was subtle, but he took the bait. After a few more drinks, Josh let his guard down completely. He started bragging about how he could make anyone believe anything with the right video footage. He even joked about how easy it was to manipulate people by editing videos in just the right way. I played along, laughing like I was impressed, but inside I was seething. That's when he slipped up. Josh, trying to impress everyone around him, started talking about his recent work. He didn't mention Ava by name, but he said he'd done a big favor for someone on campus who was having trouble with their relationship. He said he'd edited a video to help them prove a point, but didn't go into detail. My heart was racing. This was it. He was talking about the video, and he didn't even realize I was the guy it was meant to ruin. Now that I had a lead, I couldn't blow my cover. I needed more than just a drunken confession. I needed something solid, something I could use to prove the video was fake, and that Ava and Josh were behind it. Lucas and I decided to dig deeper. We knew Josh wasn't stupid. He wouldn't keep incriminating evidence on his personal computer. So we started looking into his social media, trying to find any clues that might lead us to where he was storing his files. After hours of searching, we found what we needed. Josh had been using a cloud service to store some of his more sensitive work. There were posts on tech forums where he bragged about using secure cloud storage to hide his tracks. It was a long shot, but I figured if we could somehow access Josh's cloud storage, we might find the original footage he edited to create the fake video. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I was running out of time. That's when I turned to my friend Ethan, who's a computer whiz. He's been hacking since middle school and knows more about cybersecurity than anyone else I know. I told him everything and asked if there was any way to access Josh's cloud storage without leaving a trace. Ethan was hesitant at first, but once I explained how my life was on the line, he agreed to help. Over the next few days, Ethan worked tirelessly, trying to find a way into Josh's cloud storage. It wasn't easy. Josh had taken some serious precautions, but Ethan is a genius when it comes to this stuff. Finally, after what felt like forever, he broke through. What we found was shocking. Not only did we discover the original footage that Josh had edited, but we also found messages between him and Ava. The messages were clear. Ava had asked Josh to create the fake video to frame me. She told him exactly what she needed, something that would look like me, but not be clear enough to completely prove it. Josh had done the rest, and Ava had promised him money in exchange for his work. With this new evidence, I finally had what I needed. I confronted Ava. I didn't tell her right away that I had proof. I wanted to see how far she would go with her lies. I asked her one last time if she believed the video was real, and of course she played the victim. She cried, saying she didn't know what to believe anymore, that the video had torn her apart. It was all an act, and I could see right through it. I showed her the messages between her and Josh, along with the original footage. The look on her face was priceless. She went pale, stammering, trying to explain it away, but there was no escaping it now. Ava finally broke down and admitted everything. She said she had been planning to break up with me for months, but didn't want to deal with the fallout. She thought if she made it look like I cheated, it would give her an easy way out, and her parents would be on her side. She never expected me to find out the truth. I've saved all the evidence, screenshots, video files, everything, and I'm going to the university with it. Ava's parents are going to lose their minds when they find out what their perfect daughter has done. As for Ava and Josh, they're finished. I've already cut all ties with her, and I'm making sure everyone knows the truth. Reddit, I'm back, and things have escalated in ways I never thought possible. After exposing my ex-girlfriend Ava and her accomplice Josh for framing me with a fake cheating video, you'd think the story would be over, right? I mean, I had all the proof. The messages, the edited footage, everything. I thought exposing her lies would be enough to clear my name and move on with my life. But the fallout from all this turned into something bigger. Something that made me realize I couldn't just let Ava get away with what she did. I needed revenge. Not just petty, small-scale revenge. I wanted to ruin her the way she tried to ruin me. For those who missed my last posts, here's a quick recap. I, 22M, had been dating Ava, 21F, for about a year. Everything was going fine until she and her parents accused me of cheating on her with another girl. They even had a video of someone who looked like me hooking up with some random girl behind the university buildings. The video was fake, of course. It turns out Ava had asked Josh, a tech-savvy guy from campus, to edit the footage to make it look like I cheated. When I found out, I confronted Ava with the evidence, and she broke down, admitting that she did it to get out of the relationship without looking bad. But for me, just clearing my name wasn't enough. Ava had humiliated me, turned people against me, and nearly destroyed my life. I wanted to make sure she felt the same level of public shame and isolation she'd inflicted on me. The problem was, Ava wasn't just some random girl. Her parents were rich, connected, and they'd already spread their version of the story all over campus. Even after I exposed the truth, people were still hesitant to fully believe me. Ava was smart. She played the victim card, acting like she'd made a mistake, and that the whole thing was misunderstood. Some people even felt sorry for her, like she was a girl who just got caught up in a bad situation. The sympathy she got made me sick. I realized that simply revealing her lies wasn't enough. I needed something bigger, something public, something that would humiliate her beyond repair. I wanted to take away the power and sympathy she had and make her the subject of scorn. That's why I started planning. At first, I wasn't sure how to go about it. I knew I couldn't just do something impulsive. That would only backfire and make me look like the bad guy. This needed to be calculated, thorough, and devastating. It needed to be something she wouldn't see coming until it was too late. So I spent the next few weeks lying low, acting like I'd moved on. I let her think she'd gotten away with it, that everything had blown over. But behind the scenes, I was preparing for something much darker. I reconnected with some old friends who knew how to work the system. One of them, Brandon, was a tech genius, way beyond what Josh could ever hope to be. Brandon didn't just dabble in editing videos, he could access networks, hack servers, manipulate social media platforms. He was the kind of guy who could make things disappear. Or, in my case, make things appear at just the right moment. I told him my plan, and after a few days of thinking it over, he was on board. The first thing we needed was leverage. Even though Ava had messed with me, I knew there had to be more skeletons in her closet. People like her always have secrets. Brandon and I started digging. With his help, we accessed her social media, her cloud storage, and even some of her private messages. It didn't take long before we found something big. Ava had been cheating on me for months, ironically, with Josh, the same guy who helped her frame me. They'd been hooking up long before she ever accused me of cheating, and the whole thing had been a twisted way for her to get out of our relationship without looking bad. This was gold. Not only did I have proof of their affair, but I had access to conversations between Ava and Josh, where they laughed about how gullible I was, how easy it had been to manipulate me and make me look like the bad guy. It was sickening, but it was exactly the kind of ammunition I needed to destroy her. The next part of the plan was to set the stage. I needed a public forum, something big enough to make sure everyone at the university would see what was about to happen. Luckily for me, the end of semester student showcase was coming up. This was a huge event on campus. Hundreds of students would be there, along with professors, faculty, and even some media. It was a chance for students to present their projects, showcase their work, and get recognition. Ava, of course, was one of the star presenters. Her parents had pulled strings to make sure she was featured prominently, and they'd even invited some of their high-profile friends to attend. This was the perfect opportunity. Brandon and I spent the next few weeks carefully planning how we would use the showcase to expose Ava in front of everyone. The trick was making sure the reveal happened in a way that would completely blindside her, leaving no room for her to spin the situation or play the victim. We couldn't just show the messages or pictures and expect people to turn on her. People are too good at finding excuses for someone they think they know. We needed to catch her in the act, humiliate her in real time, and leave her with no way to cover it up. That's when we came up with the idea of hacking the presentation system. Each presenter at the showcase was required to submit a digital portfolio, a combination of slides, videos, and documents, well in advance. This portfolio would be displayed on a huge screen during their presentation. Brandon managed to intercept Ava's submission and replace it with something far more incriminating. On the day of the showcase, I sat in the audience, waiting for Ava's turn. My heart was pounding. Everything was set, and there was no turning back now. I spotted Ava in the front row with her parents, looking confident as ever. She was wearing this pristine white dress like she was some kind of angel. If only the crowd knew what I knew. Ava's name was called, and she walked up to the stage with her usual grace, smiling like the queen she thought she was. The presentation started normally, with her talking about her project, some meaningless community outreach initiative she didn't care about. But then, about halfway through, the screen flickered. Brandon had timed it perfectly. Without warning, the slides disappeared, replaced by screenshots of her messages with Josh. The texts were displayed in large, bold letters for everyone to see, complete with timestamps and images of them together. There was no mistaking it. The room went dead silent as the messages revealed how she'd been cheating on me, how she and Josh had orchestrated the whole fake cheating video, how they laughed behind my back. Ava froze on stage, her face draining of all color. She stammered, trying to figure out what was happening. But the hits kept coming. The next set of images was of her and Josh, together in compromising positions. The audience gasped. Her parents, who had been sitting in the front row looking proud, suddenly looked horrified. People started murmuring, and the whispers quickly turned to loud discussions. Ava stood there, trapped under the harsh lights, as her entire life unraveled in front of everyone. But it wasn't over yet. The final blow came when a video started playing, this time, not the fake one she had created, but real footage of her and Josh laughing about how they had set me up. Their voices echoed through the auditorium, clear as day, as they mocked me and congratulated themselves on getting away with it. Ava's legs buckled, and she collapsed onto the stage. She tried to scream over the audio, but no one was listening to her anymore. The damage was done. Her reputation was shattered. Her parents rushed to her side, but even they couldn't undo what had just happened. Ava's perfect, curated image was gone, replaced by the truth she'd been hiding for months. The fallout was swift. Within days, everyone on campus knew the full story. Ava and Josh became social pariahs, and no one wanted to be associated with them. Her parents tried to do damage control, but even their wealth and connections couldn't save her from the public humiliation she'd brought on herself. As for me, I didn't feel triumphant, just relieved. I had finally taken back control of my life, and Ava was paying for what she did. People started coming up to me, apologizing for believing the lies. It felt good to have my name cleared, but even better to know that Ava would never forget the day her entire world came crashing down in front of everyone she once controlled. Revenge, in the end, wasn't sweet. It was just necessary. Reddit, I'm back. What happened next in my life is something I couldn't have imagined, even in my worst nightmares. You know how they say revenge can spiral out of control? I'm living proof that's true. After exposing my ex-girlfriend Ava in front of our entire university, I thought things would settle down, and maybe I could move on with my life. I thought she'd disappear from my world, and we could both go our separate ways, with her reputation in tatters, and me free from the hell she put me through. But life isn't that simple, and things took a turn that I'll never forget. I'm not even sure if I'm safe anymore. After I humiliated Ava at the student showcase by exposing her affair with Josh, and how they framed me, she went silent. She dropped out of sight, at least for a while. Rumors circulated that she'd gone into hiding, that her parents had sent her somewhere to recover, but honestly, I didn't care. I was just relieved that I could walk around campus without the weight of her lies hanging over me. People started treating me like a human being again, and it felt like I was getting my life back. But beneath the surface, Ava wasn't done with me. I started hearing whispers from mutual acquaintances that Ava was furious, beyond humiliated, and blaming me for everything that had happened. She wasn't just mad. She was obsessed with getting revenge. The anger she had after being publicly shamed had festered into something darker, something dangerous. I tried not to think about it, telling myself that whatever she was planning, it wouldn't go anywhere. She had already lost everything. Her reputation, her friends, her future. She had nothing left to throw at me. I couldn't have been more wrong. One day, about 3 months after the showcase incident, I was heading back to my apartment after a late-night study session at the library. It was dark, colder than usual, and the campus was nearly empty. I was tired, eager to get home, and my mind was still on the exams I had coming up. I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, a mistake I'll regret for the rest of my life. As I rounded the corner near a construction site on campus, I felt something hit me hard across my back. At first I thought maybe I tripped or slipped, but then the pain shot through me, and I realized someone had hit me. I barely had time to turn around before I was struck again, this time across my legs. I collapsed to the ground, and when I looked up, I saw Ava standing over me, holding a piece of rebar. Her eyes were wild, filled with a kind of rage I've never seen before. She didn't say a word, she just kept swinging the rebar at me, over and over, screaming something incoherent, her face twisted with hate. I tried to shield myself, but it was useless. She was relentless. The rebar hit my ribs, my arms, my legs. I felt bones snapping, heard them cracking like twigs under the force of her blows. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. The pain was overwhelming. At some point I must have blacked out because when I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, my body covered in casts and bandages. I had multiple fractures, my left arm, 2 ribs, and my left leg were broken. The doctors told me I was lucky to be alive. If she'd hit me a few more times, I could have suffered permanent damage or worse. The police were there when I woke up. They told me they'd arrested Ava on the spot. Apparently, a campus security officer had heard the commotion and managed to stop her before she could do any more damage. She was taken into custody and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Given the nature of the attack and the fact that it was premeditated, her case went to trial quickly. For weeks, I was stuck in the hospital, barely able to move. The pain wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. I couldn't believe how far things had escalated. I'd thought humiliating her would be the end of it, but Ava's need for revenge had pushed her into a frenzy, one that nearly cost me my life. But the story doesn't end there. Ava's trial was brutal. Her parents, despite everything, hired the best lawyers they could find to try and get her off the hook. They argued that she was mentally unstable, that the public humiliation I'd caused had driven her over the edge. They even tried to paint me as the villain again, claiming that my actions had provoked her attack. But the evidence was too damning. Security footage from the construction site showed everything. Her attacking me with the rebar, my futile attempts to defend myself, and her eventual arrest. There was no escaping what she'd done. Ava was convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to several years in prison. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I could finally put this nightmare behind me. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I got news that shook me to my core. About 6 months after her conviction, I received a call from one of the few mutual friends Ava and I had left. At first, I didn't want to hear anything about her. She was out of my life, and I wanted to keep it that way. But my friend insisted that I needed to know what had happened to her in prison. It turns out, prison wasn't kind to Ava. From what I was told, she became a target almost immediately. Her family's wealth and her privileged background made her stand out like a sore thumb among the other inmates. And they didn't waste any time making her life a living hell. She was isolated, beaten, and worst of all, assaulted. Multiple times. The most shocking part came when I learned that Ava was pregnant. She had been raped in prison, and now she was carrying the child of one of her attackers. When I heard this, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. No one deserves that kind of horror, no matter what they've done. But another part of me, a darker part, felt like this was some kind of twisted karmic justice. Ava had tried to destroy me, and now she was living in a nightmare of her own making. The news spread quickly. Her parents, who had once been so proud of their perfect daughter, were devastated. They'd fought so hard to get her out of prison, but now they were faced with a reality they couldn't control. Their daughter was broken, pregnant, and lost. And there was nothing they could do to fix it. I don't know what's going to happen to Ava now. I don't know if she'll ever recover from what's happened to her, or if she'll ever leave prison. Part of me still can't believe that all of this started with a fake video and a web of lies. But that's the thing about revenge. It has a way of spiraling out of control, consuming everyone in its path. As for me, I'm still recovering. My bones have healed, but the scars, both physical and emotional, will be with me for the rest of my life. I've been trying to move on, to focus on my future, but sometimes late at night, I find myself thinking about Ava and everything that's happened. I wonder if she thinks about me, if she regrets any of it, or if, in some twisted way, she still blames me for the life she's living now. Reddit, I don't know where to go from here. I thought this story would end with Ava in prison, and me finally free from her. But it feels like the damage she caused will haunt me forever. What should I do? Should I try to forgive her, or should I just let her fade into the background of my life? Part of me wants to reach out, to let her know that, despite everything, I never wanted this for her. But another part of me feels like she got exactly what she deserved. I guess this is what happens when revenge goes too far.